Morning, everyone. We'll just get started in just a moment. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Prabodh. Like to thank everyone for joining us here today for our webinar on continuous improvement meets AI, how you can power your Gemba walks using artificial intelligence and machine learning engines. A little about myself. My name is Jim Shannon. I'm the information software product manager at ECO. I've been in the industry for, 40 years now, so that 35 years is low there. I've been dealing with Industry 4.0 type solutions since the year 2000. I've been involved in a lot of MES pursuits and things of that nature over time. And of course, a lot of you that are joining us here today are probably shop floor experts yourself, and also probably involved in Six Sigma, lean manufacturing type endeavors. I personally spend a lot of time with my family. I have quite a few children, and there's always something they have going that keeps me busy when I'm not working for ECO. And then also our key speaker today, Prabodh Chip Lunker. He also goes by Chip. He's been in the industry for a great number of years, is a real digital transformation visionary, a evangelist of manufacturing and manufacturing systems. He's also a talented tennis and pickleball player, in addition to being a talented singer. So I'm going to turn things over to Prabodh, and he's going to tell you about this solution. Just real quick, ITHENA, Prabodh's the CEO of ITHENA. ITHENA is a gold partner, one of our key Rockwell automation partners in Virginia. And we work very closely with them and have for a number of years. And they have some very talented people to help bring some innovative solutions to you, our manufacturing base here in Virginia. Take it away, Chip.
Super. Thank you, Jim, and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this Tuesday morning. Hopefully, everyone's done with their tax deadlines the prior week. But welcome to this hour where we're going to talk mostly about how do you look at digitizing some of the opportunities on the shop floor and how AI can augment your continuous improvement programs. Like Jim mentioned, we're partnered. ITHENA is partnered with ECO for many pursuits, especially in this side of this region of the country, in helping make digitization a reality for a lot of our manufacturing customers and prospects. As you go through the next 45 minutes or so, we'll just give you some housekeeping items. So if you can please wait for questions till the end so we can better address them. That'd be great. And then there's within the Teams Q&A, you can put your questions so you'd be able to see it, or you can send us in chat. And we'll have some contact information of how to get in touch with us, and then your feedback will be appreciated. Usually before we get started, I usually like to see the outcome that you'd be able to get as part of this event. So primarily what you'll get to see is just what is digital Gemba. You're used to doing Gemba walks or Kaizen events or stand-up meetings in daily huddles, however you define it in your facility. But digitizing that is one aspect of utilizing the opportunity that we're going to talk about today. So you're going to hear about that first. Then you're going to see the value of how folks are doing that across various facilities, maybe with a bunch of case studies in other areas. That would be an important aspect for us to share with you. I hear some noise on the line. Maybe our organizing team, if you can maybe mute everybody else, that'd be great. Thank you. And then the next aspect is, well, what's in it for me, and how do I deploy this within the construct of my journey, whether you've done something on the shop floor to digitize these Gemba walks and Kaizen events, whether you're using some element of AI today, and if so, how do you accelerate that journey? Or if you haven't, how do you get started? And all in all, it's really to help value first, digitizing the continuous improvement programs, one, and two, then you see how AI can really help accelerate that. So with that backdrop, let me just share a little bit, and this for a later read. It's a heavy slide, but I don't want you to really worry about too many things on this slide just as yet. But just quickly about ITHENA, we're kind of born and brought up here in Richmond, Virginia, with offices across various continents, really focused on industrial manufacturing, automotive, OEM, packaging, healthcare, related industries to core manufacturing, number one. And number two, we offer solutions that are ready-made with various personas in mind. So CI improvement, CI managers or shop floor managers or controls and engineering teams really can benefit from some of the light MES or process improvement programs that we help deploy as software. Like I said, we're based right here in Glen Allen, Virginia, but offices across different parts of the world. And ECO, certainly is a comprehensive distributor specializing in industrial automation as well as power solutions. And of course, their reliability and performance from what they help their customers become more resilient precedes them in many ways. You've all been possibly working with them for many years. And together with their 250 some associates over several, at least two, maybe a dozen locations, we are partnered together to help serve the regions that are under purview of ECO, as well as with Rockwell as our principal partner. So with that kind of background about just the two companies that are joined at the hip for this discussion, I want to get right into Gemba walks or huddles or daily stand-ups, as you may define them in your organization. Just kind of the challenges that we see today in running operations on the shop floor. A lot of times there's endless paperwork and things that you require to do follow-ups on quality or safety or environmental or productivity type of KPIs that you're otherwise tracking through these huddles. There's also inability at times to manage with the rate of change, possibly of personnel, or the growth of initiatives that you see within your facility, the inability to hold people accountable easily of what responsibilities you might have assigned to them or what things you might have, tasks that might have been assigned. Typically, folks do this in whiteboards and then go refer back to some printout of an Excel or some sheet that was listed out or through email. So we've digitized a lot of that process. And of course, all of that only to say that, well, any of the anomalies that are captured in process are only as good as when a person can identify them. It's not machine learned. It's not behavioral or pattern driven. It's really what the individual and their experience can bring to bear. And while that's incredibly important, it's equally important to see, can we use technology to our advent and be able to build something that's more reoccurring without just somebody not catching it on a bad day, or how quickly they can ascertain something out of that data. So iGEMBA, which is our digital Gemba walk solution, can really help there. And I'll show some examples of how traditional Gemba walks versus digitized Gemba walks are making a difference in a lot of our customers in the manufacturing space. Whether it's continuous or discrete or various departments, or if it's maybe you have a hybrid facility, or you might be already using some production planning or manufacturing execution system. But as far as the opportunity to integrate your daily stand-ups for an incredibly low budget, yet create a scalable process, that's where iGEMBA can help. So if you look at traditional Gemba walks, you guys are all maybe used to this more than we might know. You've got a lot of manual paper-based process that requires you to do the same thing over and over again on a daily basis. And either when you're printing some of these things, when you're writing some of the scores, or you're filling things in as you assess something, it's a very manual process, which leaves very little room for any historical or even value of that data for future use in case you want to benchmark something. On this day, when we had this level of material, or this level of inventory, or these schedules for the holiday or seasonality, this is how the pattern was. Now, it's pretty good guesswork, or areas where you might already know a seasonality in your business, but can that be ascertained through a data that's completely not it's not guesswork, but it's completely driven off of a system? That's where digitizing some of these processes can help. Certainly, there's also no standardization typically that we see when a new team comes on, or if there's a attrition and new employee comes on board. While they follow what's been set up, but it's usually across locations, maybe even across departments, there's very little standardization. And sometimes it's not required, but more often than not, as you look to scale, it is important to see, am I measuring well, safety incidents and inventory may be very similar things, but things like, OE, or things like availability, or things like maybe performance. Those classifications, while they have good standards defined, hard to measure them through a standardized approach. And certainly that leads to limited visibility for management teams and other kind of higher ups in the plant, as well as inability for you to drive your business via a KPI culture. And I'm assuming a lot of the folks on the call would like to have their business run by, at best, forward-looking, but at least lagging KPIs that you can assess and say, man, we got to fix this, or at least I know where I stand. Ideally, it ought to be where you can predict what's happening, or a system can tell you this is what's going to happen, and even take some actions or suggest some actions. And that's where kind of AI comes in, whether it helps determine and come up with a concise KPI derivation from events of the past, with multiple parameters to be looked at in that derivation. And then from there, it recommends certain things that, based on these things, these are the actions you ought to be able to take. And not only that, it says, well, can I actually help you take that? So the agentic, if you've heard that term in the AI space, one is getting the insights, the other is getting the recommendations and machine learned outcomes. And then the third is to be able to actually do that continuous improvement via scheduling a bunch of things, or creating events, or creating tickets. And we'll chat about that just in a moment. And typically, none of this goes back unless you manually write back to your system of record. So if you're running SAP for plant maintenance, or if you're running JD Edwards, or whatever your ERP or MES of choice, or plant maintenance of choice might be, you have to integrate a lot of these historical events back into that, only to be able to learn from it in the future. But let alone the capture is very manual, and if at all, it's very cumbersome to be able to write that back. So here comes iGEMBA, which enables very actionable yet very simple ability to capture those events, provides you a more consolidated view across the shop floor, and enables the digitization of your Kanban or a Kaizen events to a more digital aspect across your organization. Now, whether you're running that in, I see the spelling of Kaizen is misspelled here, so apologies for that. But I see a lot of times that you get into a work stream that's been happening, or a process that's been happening for many years in your organization. Eventually, it only catches up with you once you look at a scale, or you cannot scale it beyond a certain amount of time, or a certain amount of pace at which you want to develop things. So the ability for you to look at systems that can help you scale and not be an impediment, but an accelerator is what this digitization effort is all about. And whether you do, I'm assuming you all capture data in some way, shape, or form on your shop floor manually. So this provides a digital input for that. It goes across safety, quality, delivery, cost, pretty much any which way that you want to capture employee resilience, any of the KPIs that you want to be able to look at. So the opportunity there is really to look at a single view. It looks at incidents and actions, and these are some of the features for later read. You're actually going to see this just in a moment, how this application can come together. You can easily escalate information that's required, meaning set a reoccurring event or allow for incidents to be created right off the bat rather than somebody taking a note of it and going back and doing it manually. Or if it needs to go to some plant maintenance system as an integrated case or incident, that can also be transformed using this digital capability of what ITHENA's iGEMBA provides. The ability for you to configure KPIs that, because it's not, while standardization is important for your business, it's not that every single KPI will be the same. So if you need to create a new KPI for maybe your sub department or what have you, or be able to look at something that's a variant of what corporate or at a plant level that's been defined, you can certainly do that with various rules that are color-coded, alerts that are custom that can be managed, so you can get information on as a manager on your phone or on your email, what have you. And then certainly the outcomes in which you see the representation of all these KPIs, which is the dashboards, which is what we're going to show you, of how easy it is to both collect data, process it in the back, and then be able to see the ease at which it can be displayed to you with actionable outcomes. So that was kind of our, demystifying what is the digital enablement of this, the Gemba walks or Kaizen events that we're helping, that we're talking about. The second element that we mentioned that you should be able to hear today is how folks have deployed this in the real world scenario. So we've got some real life use cases where we've seen, incredible amount of paper, manual process, almost a person and a half to two people's time being spent specifically on printing out and creating incredible amount of overhead in somebody's time on a daily basis to be able to be responsible for this. Not one person, possibly multiple people, but maybe as you aggregate that over a year, probably a person and a half to two people's worth of time that was spent in doing it. And what we have done is we've obviously brought that to life with, a 60 or 65-inch screen that can be moving around on a stand or a pedestal across your various departments, and be able to see that in the see all the KPIs for safety, quality, productivity, delivery, inventory, cost, what have you, all in one place, and even all the tasks that are related to that. So the case study that I wanted to show you was for a large a battery management company that has multiple plants, also has various challenges because their manual-based KPI monitoring, which was a wish list for them, wasn't possible because they were only getting it either end of the day or end of the week for some of the other KPIs that they wanted to aggregate and know information about. And in this day and age, if you have to change based on demand, or if you have to accelerate your production based on certain other supply chain constraints, or maybe you have to slow down certain things based on availability from a supply base perspective, you have to be able to do that in real time, not so much at the end of the day or end of the week or even end of the quarter in many cases. That was one big challenge for them, the real-time visibility. The second was that the KPIs once defined, when they needed this paper-based approach, it was always just the same parameters. And a lot of times, say for employee or morale, it often requires additive things that you can bring to the table, but don't have means or software or capability to bring that unless somebody prints that out, thinks about it. And it's not so much that it can't be done, but there's a lot of impediments to achieve that. So that was a big issue for them. And the last, but not to be ignored, is the inability to integrate this with their core systems. In this case, they were using Sage or a variant of Sage Mass 90, that software, to be able to integrate that back to the originating system. And then be able to push that out either in reporting or in budgetary purposes or in their system of record. So what we helped them was to help them first define an easy way to classify various KPIs that needed real time versus some that were okay to be lagging. But they ought to be automated, not so much somebody has to sit and aggregate stuff at the end of the day through an Excel or through manual sheets. We allowed them kind of the shift left or DIY approach, so that the engineering manager or the quality lead or even the plant manager could identify their KPIs, their categories, and be able to build the visual interfaces that were relevant to them, not so much what was pushed from, say, IT or from the outside. So provided them the ability to have various formula, limits, controls, alerts that they felt were right in their hands in a matter of minutes, and then be able to look at any breach or failure into task or event tracking, or if it was big enough to be able to create a Kaizen event where they could put that into, say, a Kanban board first, if it was transactional tracking, or even create a larger follow through on the Kaizen event. So many areas where it was not possible for them to be real time, it wasn't possible for them to be looking at visibility now, standardizing or adding KPIs of their choice, as well as having no integration, was made possible for them by us providing this digitized solution. Many a times you see that it's a simplistic approach, but the value is very important to be ascertained. Once it goes digital, you have to let it run for a certain amount of time, and that's what they've been able to see over the last maybe year and a half or 2 years now. It's gone across not only multiple departments, but also to other plants and facilities, and they're adopting it to look at how this can be a reality for their entire facility and entire operations on manufacturing. So while this is just one case study, there's many others that are similar value to our customers that we can talk about. What we want to do now, though, is kind of show you a little bit of what we've been talking about and how that's a reality for what you can expect in your environment. And to do so, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and the webinar team, I'd like you to let me know when you're able to see my other screen so that I know all participants are able to see it. Please confirm when you see my browser. Are you able to see my browser?
Yes, we can.
See it now.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to maximize this for better benefit. So I've logged in as an individual. That's my role up here as a Richmond office manager, and I have plants on the East Coast. Let's say in this unit, I have New York and New Jersey and Virginia. I'm the regional operations manager, and I'm looking at a dashboard called a summary dashboard for the current month. So when I deploy and when we deploy Gemba to our customers, they often see interfaces like this. You'll see TVs that are running around that have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different KPIs that of relevance to them. And then they can look at, hey, what happened in like a quarter ago? Let me see. And let me see what happened last month, or let me see what happened in February, assuming you have data for all those or the timeline. The interface also provides for having your basic Kanban or calendar view down here for events that you can create or you can have a list that all the tasks that were assigned for a given day or a given time. And through the Kanban board, you can see whether it's in progress or it's deferred or it's completed. And as much as if I've deferred the addressing of the safety incidents, or I've fixed the the major production bottleneck issue, whatever that might have been, I can assign it to the various categories just by dragging and dropping. Or I can create a new task as simple as by clicking on it, or I can actually go on the day on which there's a problem, click on it and add a task because this was particularly for maybe scrap part being low or being at a certain level. And I can contextualize that task creation from there as I need to, and assign it to any of the members of the team, to the appropriate user in my facility, and leave it open. Or I can say it's a high priority and pick the KPI which needs to be monitored against it. And not only that, I can even provide a quick CAPA, like a corrective action plan, to the individual I'm assigning something to, if it's a new, a team member or what have you, and even define a quick RCA in case I know the reason for something that's not right, or that I maybe know from the reason code for a particular incident that might have happened. Let me do a quick analysis of, let's say the quality on this particular case on this dashboard. By the way, each of these are things that an end user can create on their own, because all you're enabling somebody to do is input on the 16th. For example, it took the date at 10:28 a.m. Eastern. I would say it was, there were 8 scrap parts and the total produced were 22. And maybe it was, they were all 8 or bad material. So when I save that, looks like my threshold is below 8 for whatever reason, and the cumulative value, et cetera, it shows up here, but it shows how much the total for today and what was the reason for that. Alternatively, I could just click the button up top and enter appropriate parts. Now I see a lot of them don't have selected, maybe if I just add bad material as the reason code here for a couple of them, you'll be able to quickly see. We ought to be able to have that as a reason code, but a lot of the incidents didn't have the reason code. But nonetheless, once you look at all these KPIs that have a definition, and we'll go into that block just in a moment, as a user, when I'm looking at quality, I'm seeing some drop in quality, or at least, I'm not happy with this KPI. So I can analyze first as to how was I in the last month or prior to that. So it looks like I was spot on in July. I had some turbulence in August, and I've got maybe 2, and then maybe the first 6 days here in the month of September till the 16th, I've had, almost 40% issues. And then if I further drill down and say, well, which days in September have caused this issue? It could tell you the 6 incidents where this quality was an issue. And you say, well, today was the biggest. Well, I just input another 8, but before that, probably, 10th day was a problem. When I click on that, it tells me, was it the morning shift or the evening shift? So for you to be able to take a look at, hey, how, where the main problems are. Now, try doing this with manual paperwork and the ability for you to go back and aggregate things in many different capacities. It'd be a pain at best if you're able to even bring that together. But here I can quickly send an email to somebody, or I can call the appropriate manager during that time and say, hey, what happened on the 10th of September? Why are you so many quality issues? Or I can quickly chat to somebody and saying, hey, and it's smart enough to know that you're talking about September 10th, quality issues, need a discussion, and you can send it to the appropriate individual, and that will get posted in an email for them or in a chat for them, and then be able to create an event out of that. Or we can create an event directly out of here up top, and you see the checklist button. I can create a ticket for somebody to work on immediately. But you notice that in the second half of the shift, the most of the issues were because of bad material. And pretty much every one of them has, there's several bad material incidents. So if I go back to my dashboard, that was one way for me to assess and allow for a drill down capability to assess how my quality was over the last, over this week, what's happening, or this month, what's happening. The other is, this is where AI comes in, into the practicality of things. And this is what I was saying earlier. Whether you digitize this or not, well, you have to digitize it to get the value of AI, because it can't just generate data. It's going to look at data and then generate insights. So the digitization is the first element. But once it is digitized, there's an opportunity for you to have a little chat bot that maybe you can ask some questions to. So as I'm looking at this scenario on the left-hand side, I can ask this bot a question, just summarize what do you see right now. So let it run. It's going to figure out data for New York, data for my role as operations manager, and it'll figure out data for this dashboard, and it'll start in the month of September, for example. So it told me certain things about my there's 4 KPIs, first of all. So it's got, delivery, productivity, safety. I won't maybe pay. Looks like everything is okay there, but looks like the quality of target is running below for the past 8 days on an average of 40%. So just really quick, if you notice the August month for quality, the 2 days in August and the 6 days in September is what it picked up as the issue from a quality perspective. So it's saying that for the last 8 days, there have been an average of 40% decline in the quality. And then now, because I have access to multiple plants, it can tell how is it comparing between New York and New Jersey. I hope that's what I have access to. Yeah, so it figures that I have access to those 2 plants. And it then asks me, hey, do you want to know why is there a drop in New York? So let's just take a look. If I click on that button, or I can ask my own question. Oh boy, it gave me a bunch of stuff, which is that the quality in New York has dropped mostly because of bad material as a reason code. Now, we just drilled down a couple of levels down, if you notice, and we were able to arrive at the same answer pretty much, that the quality, the bad material is what's causing the drop in quality. But it gives you a little bit more insight than what you asked for. For example, while this is factual insight based on the data, what it's also telling you that if you don't take the corrective action, or if you do take the corrective action in this case, from 8 days in 2 months, you'll go down to 2 days in the following month, and 5 days in this month, which is the next month. But if you don't take the corrective actions, it'll increase to like 19 as opposed to 8 that is there today. And then it even suggests some actions saying, hey, create a task for incoming inspection for the quality inspector for New York to avoid forecasted decline. And it actually tells you to create a task, and I could click this button. Now, all the features, this is that agentic behavior. So first, you got the basic insight using AI about what is factually true. Now, it doesn't give you, it gives you the information of a lagging KPI, but then gives you a little bit of the forecasted view of what could happen, which you didn't ask, but it's giving an insight on that KPI. And then it's giving you an agentic behavior that you can take today and say, hey, I want to create a task for that. And it shows you a little graph of how the 19 versus the 2 that it just showed up top. So that's more of an insight still. And then it actually tells you, well, I'm assuming you want to assign this task to somebody, and I've got multiple people on my team, so who can I assign it to? So if you click on that, let's see what it would come back with. I'm just going to summarize this back so we're stay at the summary level. So it says that there is current task workload by assignee. You've got one user with 10%, another with 20, and then this 70% task. So it's saying that just by the New York user 2, which is this individual, only has one task right now, and they are they also happen to be the incoming QC inspector as the role. You can provide this task to them and balance it out. Now, could you do that manually by looking up somewhere else? Of course you can, but it has integrated something with your workforce systems, maybe schedules as well, the ability for it to know what roles might be best capable of solving this issue, and also the opportunity for you to take on assignment of that right through this agentic behavior. So this is where continuous improvement can be further enhanced or accelerated in its opportunity to monitor it through technology like AI. And we've shown 3 scenarios. One is the KPI aggregation. Second is the KPI insight as to what else can happen once something has already been reported. And 3, well, what do I do about it? And there are some actionable things that you can take on. So these gray buttons here are the ones that enable you to take that action. So I'm gonna, leave this. If there's any questions, maybe we'll come back to that in just a moment. But what I wanted to show you was, as you initiate a project for your digitization, I mentioned to you that this is a left shift capability. It's not so much done by an IT team and then roll down the plan for somebody to do. So if you go to your, if you want to create a brand new dashboard, you can just create your configuration of how you want it to look like, what kind of KPI category you want to look at. And there's any of the areas that are, and these all KPIs you define yourself, or it can be defined by us in a few days for you. And that's where the value comes in. So when I look at, I'll show you some of the KPIs that are already configured. So there's a KPI by the name of incidents. And if I edit that, it allows you to just enter one KPI called number of incidents. And that's all it is. And it keeps aggregating that to show the total value of incidents. And it's, it's in the category called incidents. It's applicable to this unit called Richmond for whatever reason. And at the bottom, it tells if it's below 3, then you're good. If it's above 3, there's a problem. So the opportunity for you to define that, easily create that alert, enable that alert to be emailed to somebody, and configure it, who else needs to see it, very easily can be provided for right within this interface. And you can create as many conditions as you like on various KPIs. So if I go back to my configuration of KPI, if I look at shipped for delivery, let's say, right, there's another KPI. It's order shipped, and in that case, it's 15 is a good number. Below 15 is a problem. So this is where I need to, as a business user, whether you're in the supply chain towards the finished good inventory side of your warehouse, or whether you're in engineering or quality or production planning, you can really take control in your hand and be able to determine how well you want to take something on with you. There's also the opportunity for you to input reason codes, and this can be read from maybe if you have PLC that determines the reason code, that you've written some tags to enable that, or you just have a directory from the OEM or through your process to be able to bring out, hey, what is a bad material or HR related or COVID related or malfunction or weather or poor lighting, whatever your reason codes might be for your facility. You can define them here, and then it can tell you where all the KPIs is it being used in. So really a great opportunity for you to assess and see where I can tie as a plant lead or a department lead my business operations and govern them accordingly on an ongoing basis. And obviously very straightforward to create the organization. When you want to add a line or you add a KPI or add a user, add a role, you can do that in a very simplistic interface that exists in the application. So you can create your own dashboard. You can create your own tasks that are associated with that. You can create your own KPI category and then the actual KPIs that you input into the application. Now, in the beginning, we also mentioned a little bit about Kaizen and how organizations are using this as a for Kaizen event. Many organizations look at initiatives that become important enough over time. So let me actually move it to New Jersey. I think is where we have some data for Kaizen events. Yeah. So this is a Kaizen tool, let's say, for managing production or improving productivity or inventory optimization, or you pick your kind of event that you want to drive towards. We have taken some for efficiency and productivity where you're looking to do possibly improving the speed of processes or optimizing utilization of resources for production, or looking at maybe other methods of increasing efficiency in your production schedule. Or if you're looking at reducing, say, waste in some cases, where you can do overall production, eliminating like overproduction and doing just right. Whether you're looking at reducing at-hand inventory and maybe implementing more just-in-time type approach, you can do that same structure here and manage your Kaizen events right through this structure that I mentioned earlier. Similarly, that you can do for Gemba, you can do it for Kaizen as well. And appropriate owners and ideations can be put in here by the means of these the boards, or ideation through a list if needed. And that can be then added to your day-to-day tracking capability in whatever, with the productivity improvement event or waste management event or quality improvement event, whatever the Kaizen event might be. Yeah. So very important that the same underlying technology is capable of managing the Kaizen event structure as well, where multiple people can attach to that event once created. And second, more of the task management for your daily huddles that you can enable as well. So a couple of different ways in which you can use the tool. I want to pause here and leave some room for questions, because I know this topic, at least when we had taken a poll with some of our customers, it was important to understand how this could be beneficial to them. So we wanted to show that very quickly by explaining the tool a little bit, and certainly then getting into the demonstration like you've just seen. So let me pause and let me ask if there's any questions, and if the audience, we can enable the Q&A portion for any questions that might have come in or posted by folks earlier. So I'll give it just a moment for folks to ask any questions that there might be.
Please use your chat or Q&A section to post your questions. Prabodh, we've started.
I see some questions, yeah. So how does Gemba use AI in lean and continuous improvement practices, and how reliable are the insights? So number one, the opportunity to digitize some of the existing practices of CI that you might have deployed is the number one benefit of the tool or the application. Meaning it's not going to necessarily create new ways, but it'll digitize the ways that you use information in, number one. And then that leads to whether you've got KPIs that you're monitoring that otherwise are laggard, in the sense that if it's taking longer for you to process that, any of Six Sigma or lean manufacturing, these all are very time sensitive programs, because the parameters and the ways you can impact certain things are sensitive to the duration in which they get resolved. So assigning it to people, first identifying the issues, assigning a process improvement, and then, you know, your typical DMAIC, right? Defining and measuring eventually. If that can't be done in a certain amount of defined premise of time, you've lost the opportunity, and it's just a program that's listed on the board, and people are following it, more of a mundane task. So to get the value of that, the digitization is key. That's number one. And the way it enables the capture is through simple. You can have touch screens, or you can do through your mouse, or you can do through your phone, any which way that your that application can be deployed. So that's how it uses at least the capture of it. The AI element of that is that it's using things that have happened over time. So very first thing of AI, if I ascertain the machine learning aspect of it, is that it takes things that have happened in the past and learns from similar or correlated or sometimes unrelated behavior, and be able to give you an insight. So that's one use of the AI side for the lean manufacturing. The second is the reliability question that you asked, which is the ability for you to take this data, and there's always, when you derive something, there's always a chance of certain things that can go wrong. And I don't want to say, well, the AI technology is, you know, has been proven for decades, but like the agentic behavior, we're not telling it to do something. It thinks, as we've built what they call as this, you know, the LLMs, if you've heard that term, the large language models. We're not using LLMs, we're using more of what they call smaller language models, because the constraints and the opportunity of our discussion is not how's the weather today or what's happening in New York City, but it's really what's happening to my equipment over time. So we're able to go and hone in on just our data set that's relevant and be able to give you actions. So how reliable is the AI? I think the data insights are very reliable. The agentic actions that you saw, sometimes I wouldn't say hit or miss, but they've been very consistent in the experiments and the deployments that we have done. But sometimes it's maybe a task that I wouldn't think of, or you don't have in practice. And each of them have a governance in some way, shape, or form. So even if it gives you a suggestion, it's up to the human to take the suggestion or not. So I think reliability is certainly very high on the insight side, and on the agentic action, it's improving for sure. And it's, I would say, 90, if not 85 to 90% accurate. There was another question saying, how does an organization go about implementing this in their facility? And you kind of stole my thunder, if I may. This is the argument we're making with folks. Give us a week in identified boards that you do today. We will help deploy our software in your facility. And within a week, if we're not able to get at least one board digitized, then the software is on us. So we believe it's a fairly low lift, if any, to be able to get to a level where you can be productive in a digital means of your Gemba walk. So sometimes within a week to 2 weeks, maybe the second week is more of, let me get used to it type of thing. Is everything in place? What do I tell the remaining 5 or 7 operations teams to now click a button, as opposed to they were used to write something or respond to this? So getting the equipment in, standing it up on a roller board, like a 60-inch TV, and now everybody huddling around the TV and seeing the boards you saw is within a week to at most 2 weeks to get that going. So that's maybe the answer, how they go about implementing it. But you have to have a baseline of something that you do today. So, hey, we control or we manage quality, or we look at safety, we look at delivery, cost, incoming receipt, whatever your current 7 or 8 processes that you want to, or KPIs that you want to, put on a Gemba discussion. you should have that readiness, and we bring the software readiness and help you set that up in a week. Yeah. There was a question as well in the task section. Is a notification sent to individuals that are assigned to that department for the set task is completed or progress of the task? Is it sent to individuals that are assigned to the department? So there's a configuration capability of who gets it first. So yes, the individuals that it's assigned to, and then their hierarchy, I believe, is also receiving the same alert saying, hey, somebody in your team, department head or lead, your controls engineer or quality associate got that task assigned to them. So that's one initiation. Now, while they're doing the changes, they can update the status of the task in progress, or I'm not going to do it now, or it's deferred to next week. And all those Kanban things are configurable as well. So yes, every time you move it from one to the other, the email goes to that definition that you've already provided for. So I'm hopeful that that was the question, that both the progress of the task as they update, as well as the initial assignment goes to them. Yeah. There's another question. Oh, thank you. I didn't realize you could give thumbs up, so thank you for that. How customizable is iGEMBA to our unique shop floor KPIs or processes? So it's a blank slate, to be honest. It's incredibly customized. Sometimes customers want to know where to start. So our abilities, you can start with a blank slate. You can define your KPIs, but typically Gemba's broad stroke structure is you pick alphabets A through Z, pick as many for A, as many for Z. And so we provide the, the capability to have these, 26 letters available for you to define any which way. And the visual of that will pop up. Now, what you put in there is your call. How you measure that, what you put in there, your call. What kind of variant you want to have, what kind of colors you want to put in there, what kind of alerting mechanism you want, who do you want to input in there. All of that this is just a platform that's enabling you to do all of that. So hopefully that answers the customization question, because it's truly a end user capable software. How much does the system cost, monthly or yearly? My organization does not utilize Gemba or many lean practices. Is there someone who could work with to start up the system? Certainly. So the cost of the system is, I mentioned the effort otherwise taken is 1 or 2 people's time, and the cost of system is not even fraction of a one person's time. So I'll just don't want to give a range in general, but I'll tell you how others have deployed. All said and done, and there's a recurring yearly cost. So we can do it either by department or by the facility. And it's not even, like I said, maybe in lower single-digit thousands, or maybe early double-digit thousands. So, anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000 to $15,000 depends on what you're doing. And then if you do an enterprise-type license, it's a little more than that. So it's really, if it doesn't bring that value back to you, there's a bigger issue. But that's how the software is priced. So I would say, in that range, or a midpoint of that range. Yeah. So how quickly can we see results after implementing Gemba? Now, any habit takes 21 days to stick or let go. So that's what psychology tells us. But there's a change management in softwares like these, that now I'm going to have people do a touch screen as opposed to other methods of inputting data or collating spreadsheets or what have you. So that effort is, I feel, the biggest effort in terms of change management and enabling how easily or quickly can you get adoption, and hence the results of this adoption. So I don't want to say that it's one size fits all. What you see on the screen is the ability for us to have that being done implemented within a week. But it's not something that you just get value of within that first week, because people have to use it your stand-ups, your huddles, your event planning, all has to happen right within within the time frame, or within the learned behavior, the new behavior that you're going to be learning as part of this discussion. So it's very important that you take that on and be able to put that change management in place. And the sooner you do that, I've seen organizations do things within a few weeks at best. So that's as simple as that. You can ascertain value within a few weeks. I think we've come up to almost to the top of the hour. If there are any other questions, let me see, that folks might have put in. I think customizable price, reliability. I think we've covered a lot of the questions, if not all of them. If there's additional questions, please feel free to reach out to either of us, and our emails are right at the bottom there, and we'd be happy to answer any specific questions there might be that we might not have taken on today. But I'll just highlight Jim's email right there, jim.shannon@eco-net.com, and my email is at the bottom of the screen as well, probodh, probodh@ithena.ai, and we'll have the right members of our team connect with you should there be specific questions that you haven't answered, or we can help you go down to the journey of digitizing your shop floor. So with that, I really want to thank everybody for joining today and the opportunity for us to share our event with you, and look forward to others that we can get together on. Jim, any closing thoughts from you?
No, Chip, I'm good. But as Chip said, just please reach out to either one of us, or you could also talk to your ECO account manager if you know who that is. We'll be happy to engage with you and talk about your specific setting and how this is all going to function in your, at your place.
Super. Well, thank you again for joining us. And if there's any questions we've not answered, we're happy to do that. We've given you your 2 minutes back, and I appreciate both ECO and the ITHENA team for putting this together, and all the participants to join. Thank you again.
Thank you, Chip.
Cheers. Thank you.